Welcome to today's session. I have a practice planned, which is in the category of restorative yoga, and it's being presented in the summer in Australia. It's very hot, very humid here, so it's the kind of practice that's good for this weather, which sometimes can be quite debilitating. And other times is this season accompanied with summer colds, flus, or even COVID, which I had last week. And this is the kind of practice that, in coming back from that experience, seems to suit me. And it will go into our library of videos, and hopefully it'll be a practice that suits other people as well. It comes via the big Iyengar book that I dip into once in a while for inspiration in a practice that's for exhaustion. So we'll start with using quite a few props. So you could say this is prop-centric. And I've got a setup you can see behind me, which is a bolster that's propped up on foam blocks. And I'm going to take my position, and the first pose is Setu Supta Baddha Konasana, a really lovely pose for opening up the body, but also calming and soothing it at the same time. So grab your spot on your mat. I'll give you a moment to collect a few props, and that would be a chair as well as the bolster, the blocks, and a couple of blankets. I've planned ahead, and I have an eye covering here. And when we take the first pose, Supta Baddha Konasana, the bolster, I'm sitting in front of it, not on top of it. And I've also got something to support the outside of my legs. So we bend our legs and bring the feet together in this manner. And then I've got a kind of a long blanket that I've made into a tube shape so that I can put it over my feet, round the backs of my legs, and then my legs feel like they're really comfortably supported. In lying down, as always, test the position and make sure that you feel like it's suited to your particular anatomy. And if it feels like it's a little bit too much of a back bend for your lower back, you could put an additional blanket underneath your buttocks. I'm going for comfort here. So this blanket supports my head and is a pillow for the back of my neck as well. And then, as I said, if you pamper yourself with an eye pillow, you will get utmost comfort out of the pose. So let's stay here for 3 or 4 minutes. Once you've covered your eyes, or if you're not using an eye covering, just close your eyes gently. Let your arms be out to the side, a little way away from the side of your body. Because in my position that I'm demonstrating, I'm propped up. My arms and shoulders are a little higher than where I place my forearms and my hands. So I don't want them to drag and feel uncomfortable on my shoulders. So you can pull your elbows in a little closer to you. Turn your palms so they face the ceiling, and then take a couple of deeper breaths in that manner that we know where we can let go more, and a deeper exhalation like an internal or even an external sigh of letting go. If you've managed this position where your chest is supported and a little higher than your hips, then give in to that opening that you've created there. Feel the collarbones widening and the heart space nicely opened. And I'll be silent for the next minute and take that time just to notice your breathing. I hear an instruction not infrequently these days, which is can you let go even 5 or 10% more? It's not mysterious, it just means on a physical level, can you let your weight be supported that little bit more? Back of your head, your torso, your hips, feet. And hopefully for you, that was a way to settle in at the beginning of our restorative practice. And we're just going to move ever so slowly into a forward bending position over the same props that you've been reclining on. So bring your knees up and gradually roll off your bolster to one side, much better than trying to sit up. And once you've done that, then take a moment to find a kneeling position where your knees are on either side of the bolster. Pull it in nice and close. It just kind of snuggles in between your thighs, just up to your upper thighs. And then when you go forward, I'm using that pillow that I had my head on just to support my forehead. And my head's in a straight forward position. But you can also remove the blanket, extra blanket, and turn your head to the side. Where your arms rest on, the forearms rest onto the floor, you can tuck your hands underneath the bolster. I've got two blocks that are supporting the setup, so they fit in nicely between the two blocks. The thing that I like about the position that we're in is that I can feel my breath more clearly through my diaphragm, rests on the bolster, and my belly muscles. The breath feels like a kind of rocking movement in and out. To whatever extent you can, especially relax your shoulders. Your shoulder blades, want them to drop out too. If you had your head turned to one side, that position, and see if it works for you to turn your head the other way. And then if it doesn't, then go back to the original way. And there's your breath that you can observe. It's like the rocking of a cradle, back and forth, rhythmical. And then as you're ready and not before, use your hands pressing down to lift up, head and chest off your supports. And let's take a lying down position on your back this time. Just going to clear a space here. So have your mat free of any props except for one, you might need a blanket to support your head, but then have a belt, a yoga strap. Lying face up. And straighten your legs out. Flex your feet and stretch out through the back leg line all the way to your heels. Draw your shoulders down. And then bend just your right leg into your chest. Slip your belt over your right foot. And then gradually extend the right leg up towards the ceiling. I've got my belt loose on both sides. Wind a little bit of the belt onto your hands and push away through the balls of your feet. I've got it on rather than the arch of my foot, on the balls of my feet, my forefoot, and then extending the back of the leg well up towards the ceiling. One of the principles of restorative yoga is to work to stretch out the muscles a bit. Where we hold tension, we want to relieve that tension. So I think there's 4 different pillars of restorative yoga. That's one of them, is to work on the stretching component. That's the very definition for a lot of people of yoga. So as we extend up the right leg, extend the left leg along the floor too. It's really a connected movement too. So feel your the heaviness of your thigh bone down into the hip socket. And that's the place where you can stretch away from. Pass the belt into your right hand and extend the left arm out to the left. Take your right leg right a little bit. And then if there is any tendency to tip to the right side, anchor the left side strongly. And we're keeping that anchor so that we can stretch away to one side without tipping to that side. And same thing, the femur, the thigh bone connected into the hip. And that's where you stretch from. Let's bring that leg all the way up. We're going to pause there for a moment and then take away the belt. Hold the back of the right thigh with your hands linked behind the thigh and circle your foot. So a little relief for the ankle joint. See if you can get your toes moving too in the movement and the foot bones. And then go the other way. And bend the right knee towards your chest. Extend the right leg along the floor. Join up your legs for a moment, but then just let them relax completely and feel the contrast between the leg that you worked and the one that you haven't yet. Most people report a kind of lightness through that leg after stretching. And then let's bring the left leg in. Pop your belt onto the left foot and extend up the left leg. Once the left leg is extended, consider your right leg and extend that as well. That's your grounding of the in pose, the right side of your body. And then what does that feel like to extend the opposite leg? What is it? Now you have a baseline for one side. What is it when you weigh in against the first side? This one is stiffer than the first side. Let's make sure that the gripping on the belt, that you've got a kind of loose hand grip on the belt. You don't need to clench your fingers. And then consider the back line of your legs from your left sitting bone to your left heel, extending up. And same thing with your right leg, the floor leg. And then let's take that leg side to the left, holding with your left hand, extend your right arm out from your right shoulder, and then let's go left. A little goes a long way for me. And as you take the left leg to the left, solid weight on the right side of your body. The right buttock, the right waist, the right shoulder blade. Make sure that you don't have a white knuckle grip onto the belt. Keep extending away. Front of your neck and your chest muscles relaxed. And if you've started to tip over, seesaw to that left side, pressing down on the right buttock, the right hip, almost like you're turning your muscles, your core muscles, to the right side. Bring that leg back up, and let's hold the leg, 2 hands clasped behind the thigh without the belt there, and then circle your left foot. My ankles tell me they like this very much. And the other way. And then we're going to let the left leg rest alongside its mate. And then take a moment, consolidate. Let's not rush into the next movements. A little bit more circulation, I noticed, in that left foot. And then bend up your legs. Roll onto your right side and come up to a seated position. Now, the next pose, we have these lovely props, and I'm going to take one of them to sit in the kneeling position. And this depends on how your knees adapt to this. So if I take a bolster to sit on and straddle it in a kneeling position in Virasana, that is quite kind to my knees because I've got a little bit of space behind them. And it is possible to sit up even higher. So I could sit on my foam block between my legs. And you can see how much taller I've suddenly become. But I don't need that for my part. So I'll sit just on the end of the bolster like this, my feet on either side. And if you look at your feet, all your toes are pointing back. Let's say the heel of your hand, you're going to bring it onto the heel of your foot, fingers pointing back. Press your hands down, lift the chest up, and see if you can take your shoulders back and bring your shoulder blades closer together. Your head, your ears stay in the line of the shoulders. And then let's do a little twist here. So let's say right hand, left knee, left hand behind you, sitting tall, sitting pretty, looking around to that side. And then see if you can turn in your upper back, your shoulders a little bit more. Good. And then let's swing around the other direction. And it's left hand, right knee, right hand behind you. If in any of these variations your hand doesn't quite reach the floor, then put a block there underneath your hand. And then turning. The main thing here is to open the chest. So we're turning from the collarbones, the upper part of your ribs. Your line of vision is looking backwards over your shoulder. And then back to center. Let's stay a little bit longer for one final movement. Interlock your hands, turn your palms forward, straighten through your elbows as much as you can. Give your knuckles a good stretch, and then reach up and reach back a little if that feels like a good kind of baby back bend for your upper part of your back. And then lower your hands to chest height. Change the way you locked your hands. Press forward, press up, reach up. And in this position, can you squeeze your elbows in a little bit more? And then release your hands forward, and we'll come down to ground with the legs stretching out in front of you. Seated in Dandasana, your legs are straight. Bring your hands behind you and fingers point away from you, and lean back into your hands so that your back feels relaxed and supported. And then press through your hands, straighten your elbows, and lift your chest up towards the ceiling. This time, tilt your chin up and raise your gaze. Look up, open your eyes well. Beautiful. And then we're going to take some support to sit on so that it's easy to sit up straight. And I've got my folded blanket that I used for a pillow before to sit on. And we're going to sit in the splits. Upavista Konasana in Sanskrit. From Dandasana, you could say, open your legs wide. Do a little playing around where it feels much more like you're sitting on the sitting bones than on your tailbone. And we've got to this part where the legs are straight out. And then use your hands behind you again to lift up from the base of your spine to the top of your head. Flex your feet. In fact, just because we can, and it's a nice movement for your ankles again, alternately flex and extend your feet, your ankles. Or properly, we could say this, plantar flexion, pointing your toes, dorsiflexion, extending the back of the leg. Okay, and then let's be still for a moment and bring the hands in front of you. Then we'll take the last part of what we're doing as a forward stretch. So in forward stretching, we're moving from the crease at the tops of the thighs, bottom of the torso, rather than bending from the upper part of the spine. So let's hold back that movement and rather keep the chest open, the heart space open. And you might be able to, without bending in the upper part of the back, creep the hands forward. But remember the principle of stretching that's part of the restorative practice. And then wake up the legs a little bit more by flexing the feet slightly. It's so easy to collapse when we're doing forward stretching. So you let your hands support you, let your arms support you, and lift up your chest. Just a few more breaths there. And then pull your hands back and reach the inside of your knees. Give them a little bit of support as you lift them up. And keep bringing the feet in until you can place them in Baddha Konasana with the soles of your feet together. Now, just check your seat. And if you've slipped a little bit, you've come onto your tail again. Hold your legs. Keep your feet close to you. You can cup your hands around your feet. That's a good movement. And then bring yourself into a slight forward bend or forward momentum. And that's going to bring you back on the edges of your sitting bones. So I haven't done this for a few days, and I can feel a strong groin stretch. You don't want that so strong that it feels uncomfortable or even painful. And then let's take the feet out at a little distance and relieve some of that groin stretch. However, you've got the space now for more of the forward momentum. So we take the bend from the hinge at the hips, coming forward. Rest your forearms onto your forelegs and this is a restorative practice after all, so relax as much as you can in a slightly odd position for relaxing. Right. And then coming up, grab the outside of your legs this time, push away through your legs, give your back leg line a nice stretch, heels, buttocks to heels, and then let's take a chair. Grab the chair to position it on your mat where you're going to sit in front of it. And so the seat of the chair is going to be facing towards you. And I've got a support for sitting on. And then also my bolster, which I'm going to place on the seat of the chair. So we'll try this on for size. And we're aiming for a supported version of Paschimottanasana, the seated forward stretch. For utmost kindness to your legs, separate your feet about a foot apart. Your legs are underneath the chair and your feet are separated. Then check this out for yourself. You need to have enough of a platform to sit on if you have a tendency to tight hamstrings or bowing your back in forward bends. So once more, kindness to your body. Then pull the chair in close enough to you so that when we do the hinge at the hip crease, we can come forward and rest the forearms onto the bolster and your head onto your folded hands and arms. And we end up in this seated position where we can stay for a couple of minutes. With a couple of conditions or considerations about how you're sitting. So the most important thing is that you feel grounded and that your seat fully supports you. So instead of being on your tail, you're towards the front edges of the sitting bones. You might adjust that as you go along. We'll be here for a couple more minutes. Connect with your frontal body from the pubic bone, let's say, all the way up to the notch of your throat. And let's, considering the front line of the body, draw up at the same time as you drop your shoulders. So there's a wish, an aspiration that lifting keeps the heart space open and that the lungs are free to breathe as normal. No pressure there. Yeah, and do take some deeper breaths. And we'll stay for just one more minute. And in this time, and acknowledging that there is a tendency to collapse. Bring attention to the lift again. No pressure of the head onto the arms. The forehead is lightly resting onto your hands or your arms. And the last part here, can you bring an extra stretch to the back line of the legs? Buttock bones to heels. Stretch away. All right. And then to release from your pose, come upright. Just bring your hands onto the bolster. Press your hands down on the top of the bolster. Lift your chest up. Stretch up. And then give yourself a back break and take your support underneath your buttocks away and just lie on your back with your legs bent and your feet on the floor for a moment. We have one more forward stretch to do while we're seated, and that is Janushirasana. And in some ways, we've done the hard yards because the previous pose is a 2-leg stretch. This one is 1 leg straight and 1 leg bent. So take your seat again. Take your platform to sit on underneath your buttocks. Extend your right leg out. Bend your right leg in. So one leg is as in Paschimottanasana, the double leg stretch that you did, and the other leg is like Baddha Konasana, the bent leg pose that you did earlier while you were seated. All right, pull the chair in close enough for you. Now, I know not everybody has an easy time with their knees, so if your knee could benefit from having support, take up a block underneath the outside of your lower leg and your upper leg. Support the outside of your knee. For my person, I don't need that, so I'm going to take that away. And then without going forward, you kind of know the drill. You're going to rest your head onto your folded arms. Sit upright. Bring your hands alongside your hips. Press your hands down and turn your chest a little bit so that it lines up more with the straight leg in front of you. Then bring your arms in and fold your arms and your hands and rest your head onto your arms, your hands. We want the feeling at the front body, and especially the chest where the lungs and the heart are, to feel buoyant, even from the inside, and lifting up, and the shoulders releasing down. Now just check something for yourself. Have you collapsed a little bit? But the meditation teacher, John Kabat-Zinn, says that if your posture collapses, then your attention collapses. And so we want to stay alert and yet relaxed. So recommit to lifting the chest, opening up and out. And we're just about ready to shift over for side 2. Come on up, stretch up, and then extend out the left leg with the right, both legs straight. Give your knees a chance to extend, that left knee that's been bent, and then bring the right leg in. Take the bent leg position, right leg, straighten out the left leg. While you're still more upright, then turn your navel towards the straight leg in front of you. Use your arms to support you onto the chair. Extend well behind the left leg. The right leg, relieve of any tension if possible. So soften that right groin, the bent leg position. Can you lift and open your chest forward, upward? Notice for yourself and your position as we've stayed a little bit longer. Does it feel like your pose has become heavier? And can you bring back that lightness, stretching up from the hips to the shoulders at the front of the body? All right. And let's ease out of the pose and take that lying down position for a moment. If it feels comfortable on your back, then shift your hips around a little bit. Your legs are bent, your feet are on the floor. We're going to take a rotation, a twist on the chair. So roll over to the side, come up to sit on the chair. And you'll just do fine with just the chair as a prop for the time being. Let's sit side on to the chair with your right side facing the back of the chair. Once you're seated, then have a look at your where you've placed your feet. They're a little bit apart. Your knees are apart, but your feet are very much grounded. So make sure that heel, forefoot, toes all feel your footprints, in other words. Then bring your hands onto the back of the chair. And let's work with the breath. Once your hands are on the top of the chair, just because you've turned to the right shoulder might be a little elevated. So feel into that. Drop your right shoulder. Beautiful. And then let's see if we can connect with the upper part of your back. It's always a mysterious searching when you try to get a sense of your back, which you can't see. So feel into your upper part of your back and particularly shoulder blades. Lift and open your elbows to the side. That might give you a better sense of your shoulder blades. And then work with your breath. Take an inhalation and exhale. Allow yourself to rotate a little more deeper into your twist. If that's there for you, don't force it. Inhale, exhale, and rotate. Another breath or two like that. And you've been looking over to the right side. And now just to complete what you're doing, look to the left side over your left shoulder. You just want to keep the neck rotation symmetrical. And then looking over your left shoulder, your chest high, sitting tall, sitting pretty. Okay, good. And then let's go second side. And turning, I'm going to present my back for this side. 2 feet firmly on the floor, 2 buttock bones firmly on your seat, and then reach the top of the chair. We start out looking in the direction that we're rotating to the left, turning the torso from right to left. Lift your elbows out to the side without elevating your shoulders. And now is the left shoulder relaxed? When your head turns, when your neck turns, does your line of vision turn too? Can you see out of the corner of your eyes? And with the breath and that extra boost that the exhalation gives you, inhaling, exhaling. And then for the last part, turning your head to the opposite side. Lift your chest high, look over that shoulder. Look around out of the corners of your eyes. Lovely. And then come off the chair. And we're finished with it for the moment. So put it to the side. And just stand in Tadasana on your mat. Not to give the most basic pose short shrift, just take a moment and use it to create some stillness through your body from the ground up, the feet, the toes. When you press lightly into your feet, we wake up the leg bones into the hips. Allow the arms to feel a little separate from the rest of the body out to the side. A little space between the upper arms and the upper ribs. Fingers stretching down. And allow the tailbone to lift very, very slightly. Follow the curves of the back all the way up through the dorsal thoracic, the back of your neck, crown of your head, and looking out towards the horizon with a soft gaze in your very basic Tadasana. And then bring your arms forward and up to Urdhva Hastasana. Urdhva meaning upwards in Sanskrit. Hastasana, your hands. Straighten through your elbows. And allow the shoulder blades to elevate, the outside of your shoulder blades, so they feel like they're free on the upper part of your back. Lower your arms back down to the side. And then bring just your right arm up. Bend your elbow. Bring your right hand to the upper part of your back. Really simple movement here. Place your palm on the upper part of your back with your fingers fanning out, like that. And press a little bit with your hand onto your upper back. Raise your left arm and hold your elbow, just kind of like for support more than anything else. But if you wanted to, you could draw the elbow up and back slightly. And then release that arm and let it drop. Just pause, we're not rushing. And then left arm. And we're just stretching that arm straight at the elbow and folding it back. And in the same manner, the hand resting upper back between the upper shoulder blades. Good. Press your palm a little bit. And then let's join right hand, left elbow. Soften the diaphragm ribs. At the bottom of your rib cage, we're not going to let them flare too much or stand forward and up. And then release. So we're working through just breaking down Gomukhasana, the cow's head arms. And on the other side, right arm extends out from your shoulder. Let's see what happens when we turn that palm back behind us, roll the shoulder forward, and bring your hand onto your lower ribs. When I've done that, we're not doing anything with your left arm yet. When I've done that, my hand is facing out, my palm is facing out. I'm going to give my wrist a little work here by pressing my wrist against the lower back, lower spine, and turn your palm upwards if you can do that. What if you wriggled a little bit and that feels okay in the shoulder joint? You brought your hand up a little further along the spine. Open your fingers, spread your fingers, press your wrists. I know my opposite hand wants to help out, but I'm just working one side. And then let that go, shake it out. And let's see what happens on this side. So preparing, your palm turns back, your shoulder rolls forward. I'm doing a little forward bend, and then placing my hand on my upper back, lower back again. Wrist presses. I've just discovered that this is a really good wrist stretch for me. And then turning your fingers so they point upwards. And for the record, that's quite different than the first side, as these things always are. Good. And we'll leave it at that today without joining the hands. Shake both wrists out. Shake the little finger side a little bit more. And then take up one of your foam blocks. And we've done some nice arm and shoulder movements there. And we're going to move into another restorative pose in a moment. But before we do, we'll just work with opening up the upper part of the body a little more. Step out wide on your mat. I'm facing the long end of my mat. And then lift one heel, lift the second heel, splay them a little bit more, and straighten your feet so that all 5 toes are pointing forward. And take that block and place it on the high end in front of you. Bring your hands onto the lower part of your torso where you can hinge from the hips and come into a slight forward bend. At that point, after that hinge, bring your hands down onto the top of the block. Support yourself with the heels of your hands. The block is on the high end so that you can pump up your chest and open the chest forward and upwards like we work to do in the seated forward bends. Feel the weight divide between your forefoot and your heel evenly. Front of your foot pressing down, heel bone pressing down. Draw the tailbone up slightly. And then to work the upper part of your body into a rotation, have just the left hand onto the top of the block. Bring your right hand onto your right hip. Turn towards the right side. Look to the right side. Bring the left shoulder blade into your body. Make sure that you still have weight onto your left foot. Keep it awake, lively. And then if you want to move into the final movement, bring the right arm up and out and up towards the ceiling. And then that might give you scope to turn a little bit more to the right side. Good. Shift your hand position. So right hand is your supporting hand. You're straightening through the elbow. The more that you do that, the more the trunk will be lighter for rotating. And then see how you go. You had your left hand onto your hip to start with. What does it feel like, arm and shoulder, if we take the left arm up towards the ceiling? Can you turn a little bit more from the lower shoulder blade? All right, and then bring your both hands back onto the block. Pump up your chest again. Bring it forward. Bring your weight to the forefoot and lift your tailbone just a little bit more. Relax your shoulders. And then let's go heel, toe, coming into center. Bend your knees well. Take your block away and swap over for taking up your bolster again. We're going to use the bolster for a little back bending position. Really, my emphasis is more the mood of the position, which is about opening up the heart space. So take a seated position, straddling the bolster, feet on either side, and have a seat You're going to roll down to a reclining position on the bolster. So we take support with the hands behind you, feet on the other side of the bolster, and then lowering down until your head and shoulders are fully supported onto the mat. And that's important. We need that support for this version of Setubandha. Now, this feels just fine on my lower back. I'm experiencing as a supported and very nice back bending pose. However, if it feels too strong for you or you don't sit exactly right, it doesn't sit right with you or you don't sit right with it, you might try moving back so that instead of your mid back being supported so much, it's more your lower back. In fact, just do any amount of shifting so that you find that it's a level of comfort for you. You don't need to have the support at all. You can just take the bent leg position, constructive rest position, if the bolster doesn't work for you in the end. However, for Setubandha, have your arms at a little distance from the sides of your body. I've placed them out like Shavasana, out to the side. And if you were like more stretch through your frontal body, you could step your feet out a little more distance away from your buttocks. We do so little back bending in the course of our everyday activities that we miss out on that really important movement of back extension. We lose one of the potential functions of the spine. And even better if we can find a way to do it in a supported fashion, as we are at the moment, and to allow ourselves to open up the heart space. I'm going to take my arms over head position. You can do that too if you like, where your one hand rests in the palm of the other overhead. And we'll stay about another minute. As always with these postures, you can come out earlier, but especially with restorative poses, and this is another principle of them, it's best to have holdings or timings for you to stay in the poses. So that the pose has a more profound effect on the nervous system. I think a buzzword at this time, or one that I've more recently come onto this year, is down regulating the nervous system. Basically soothing. We have a little bit more time in the session, And I want to devote that to the yoga relaxation. So find your way to the ground. And once you've done that and you're lying the torso out flat, stay there for another moment. Let your posture accommodate itself to lying supine. And then take what props you need for the yoga relaxation. A bolster underneath the backs of your knees, as I'm going to have here. Take up your pillow for the back of your head. And your eye covering as well. It's a well known and established fact that people tend to get into Shavasana more quickly and efficiently than any other pose. I don't know why that is. You might figure it out for me. And once we're settled like this, well, assuming it takes a little while to get that sense of being supported and letting the weight drop into the props and into the floor. But once we're settled, and because we've done quiet practice throughout this session, without a huge emphasis on the breathing of yoga, take time to notice it now. Especially notice and observe your breath without changing it. Let it be as it is, and be there as the thoughtful observer of your breath. One breath will follow the previous one organically. And the difference here is that you are there going with the breath, your awareness going with the breath. For the next several breaths, just extend the exhalation a little bit. And in those deeper breaths, come back to the awareness of your body. And along with the breath, including the sensations of the body, feeling where you're lying in this position, the back body. Take time to notice the sounds that surround you, close to you and farther away. Begin to bend your legs and bring your knees towards you and roll over, and very gradually and gently to the side. And we're in a curled up position on the side for another couple of breaths. And easing up finally to a seated position. And with as much care and consideration as you've given to yourself through the practice, in your seated position, just make sure that you're on those sitting bones, that your posture is upright and comfortably so. Join your hands in front of your chest and lift your elbows a little bit to open up the corners of the chest. And then with your eyes gently closed or your gaze downcast, bring your chin down a little bit and feel into the heart space where we sense the goodness there, our inherent kindness. And from this quiet and peaceful state that you've created through the whole practice, and particularly now, we say namaste. And I say thank you very much.